For decades, we have tried to break the poverty cycle in Africa, but education using technology will be the one thing that will break the poverty cycle. The solution will be artificial intelligence implemented as machine teaching. KIS Publishing was formed to create software to teach autism how to communicate. Historically, nonverbal children with autism were the hardest students to teach. Traditional teaching methods, even those coupled with technology, do not work for the special needs population. The key was the development of a new non-linear teaching method based on intrinsic motivation, engagement, and micro increments in difficulty. This breakthrough, which is based on a solid scientific foundation, has enabled these students, as well as others with all level of abilities, to master concept up to 50 times faster than other methods. Since every lesson in the system is individualized, students in a classroom may be working on the same topic, but at vastly different levels of difficulty. One student may learn to count using insect, while another produce different types of cars or gemstones. Currently, there are over 10,000 images in the system that can be used to teach a variety of subjects. The KIS system is based on continuous measurements of every interaction, thereby enabling not only the measurements of performance, but also of response time and idle times. KIS Publishing is partnering with local entities in sub-Saharan Africa to create centers of excellence to bring this technology to Africa to create learning outcomes for millions of students. These centers will then become self-reliant as they receive a combination of government funding and training revenues. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
That's amazing actually to watch, and I wanted to put that in context. So as Gary and Dalia said, my name is Joshua. Chalo is a surname. I was born, raised and grew up in Kenya, in the eastern part of Africa. You want to understand the education system in Africa. Teachers are few, mostly untrained. Resources are rare, are inadequate for a lot of students. The infrastructure, buildings almost don't exist. And it's not unusual to find in one classroom up to 100 children with one teacher only. That's not unusual. That's the biggest challenge. And then it varies from country to country. Some countries are worse. I'll come and talk about that specific area where this was filmed, because I've actually I've worked there before. That is in the northern part of Uganda. I went to school in Kenya, finished my master's, and went and taught at the university for about 2 years in Kenya at a very early age. And I decided that I wanted to really do something that could change environment for children in Africa at scale. And I decided the way to do that is to work for charities. So for the last about 18, 20 years I've been involved in international development. My job is really international development specialist. I've lived and worked in 6 countries, including the United States. I've worked and supported about 12 charities over time. I'm an education professional, but I've branched out and done a lot of other things. Why is this so important? So, if you think about it, at least about 40 to 50% of children in Africa do not have access to any quality education, generally speaking. And I'm talking about all the different tiers, from early childhood development to secondary to primary. And it gets harder and harder to go into colleges because there are very few colleges and stiff competition. So the life of a child in Africa who is trying to get education. I was I think the first person to get to college from a population of about 200,000 people. That has changed over time, but still a very, very long way to go. Disability. Now, I worked for part of my work, I worked in Tanzania with an organization called Save the Children, in the United Kingdom. And I spent about 6.5 years there. I was their country director. And part of the work I did is on disability. On the island, it's called the Zanzibar Island. On that island, I was working with, it's called the Zanzibar Association of the Disabled. We were trying to get kids with disability, just general disability, into school. Because you think about lack of education, lack of access for majority of the children, then think about the discrimination, the lack of knowledge, the stigma that faces children with disability. I'll come to autism last. Because of the lack of knowledge, illiteracy rates, cultural beliefs, if a family has or her child with disability, they were feel to be cast. In other words, something went wrong. They hurt the spirits, and that's why they were being punished. Some god somewhere was very angry with that family. And what the families do, they typically would either chain them or cage them or keep them away from the public sight. Because the more they were exposed, the more they would know, the rest of the public would think that, oh, you have a caste generation or caste family. It's changed quite a bit, but for a lot of children with disabilities, it's a huge struggle. And I'm really talking about physical disability, generally, or visually impaired, or children that are deaf, or all other forms of general disabilities, I would call it. Access to education is almost zero. It's absolutely totally limited. It's non-existent. And that is a huge challenge for most of them. And then autism, I was telling Dahlia and Gary, think about it this way. People don't even know what autism is. They can't even diagnose it. They can't even tell the symptoms of a child who has developed that condition. And then that's number one, problem number one. And often when children are in that state, they're again either cursed or they are mad, they're crazy, or something again went wrong. And it adds or complicates their situation. Picture for a child with autism or any form of disability, which begins to put this in a bit of a context. When I therefore saw what Adalia and Gary are doing, I said, oh gee, this is a lifesaver for millions and millions of children. So why I think that this technology is so important, and when I saw it, I got so excited. I said, I want to, because this is what I've done, I want to reach out to the world and we can bring this to children in Africa. Why do I think that is important? Because you see the excitement. But to see the kids interacting with that technology so effectively and so excitedly, really, it's a real inspiration to me. Because there are no resources there. They rely on one textbook maybe shared between 4, 5, 6, 10 children. And they maybe one teacher for 100 children. So the contact levels are very, very limited. People like yourselves that are really taking this seriously, this field of study, would be amazing resources for the world. For us, certainly for Africa, because we don't have trained personnel, we don't have the skills, let alone the technology. So there's going to be a lot of work to be done in terms of getting people out there, getting them to train the teachers and the paraprofessionals and the people in the system that can really bring this technology and make a difference in the lives of children. And what you guys are doing is amazing. Every time I come here, autism is a new area of work for me. Every time I'm here, we're talking to Gary Patelli, I'm like, oh gee, there's a lot to learn. And I'm imagining, how has Africa dealt with this group of children over the years? And what is their future, unless we can begin to get them access to this level of support? Thank you. Thank you.